Welcome everybody to this meeting of the Pyrenees Shire Council. Councillors will today deliberate and decide on a range of matters relevant to the work of council in its communities for the welfare of the people of the Pyrenees Shire. As the meeting chair, I give my consent for this ordinary council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online. Anyone who is invited to read out a question or make a submission will be recorded, and their voice, image and comments will form part of that live stream and recording. The chair and or the CEO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed appropriate. That may include where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. The live stream will stop prior to the closed section of the meeting and will recommence for the conclusion of the meeting. Public is able to view this live stream via our website at www.pyrenees.vic.gov.au. Should technical issues prevent the continuation of the live stream, the meeting will continue as long as a quorum can be maintained, and where possible, a recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. Where a quorum cannot be maintained, the meeting will be adjourned until the issue is resolved, or the meeting postponed to another time and date in accordance with Council's governance rules. We acknowledge the people past and present of the Wadawurrung, Jar Jar Wurrung, Eastern Maar and Watchabolik tribes whose land forms the Pyrenees Shire. We pay our respect to the customs, traditions and stewardship of the land by the elders and people of these tribes on whose land we meet today. All councillors are present and staff, so there are no apologies. Any notice of disclosure of interest by councillors or officers? If not, I would ask for the confirmation of the previous minutes held on the 25th of June 2024 as previously circulated to councillors be confirmed. Move Councillor Ferrari, seconded Councillor Keogh. All in favour? That is carried. As there was no business arising, items taken on notice for the previous meeting held on the 25th of June. We'll move on to the public participation. Members of the community are encouraged to participate in public ordinary council meetings by asking questions or presenting a submission. This can be done by attending in person or by submitting in writing prior to 12 noon on the day of the meeting, online through Council's website, or by mail or hand delivered. If a question or submission is submitted in writing, this will be read by the chair during public participation, stating the person's name and township. Question time will be held first, followed by public submissions. 30 minutes is allowed for the total period of public participation. Time extensions may be allowed at the discretion of the chair, subject to the provisions of the governance rules. Person may ask a maximum of 2 questions at any one meeting. The chair will allocate a maximum of 5 minutes to each person who wishes to address council or ask questions. The chair, councillor or council officer to whom a question is referred may immediately answer the question or take the question on notice for answering at a later date. There will be no discussion or debate with public attendees. However, councillors may ask questions of the attendee for clarification. So we would ask our one member in the gallery if you have any questions of council. Thank you. Mr. Kirsanovs, welcome tonight and congratulations on your appointment on Sunday.
Thank you, and thank you for your attendance. Yes, George Kirsanovs, Bayford citizen. 2 matters. 1, the traffic lights out here. Has the council have any input into who makes decisions about the duration of which direction those lights operate in? It's quite clear that in recent days they favour the east-west traffic regardless of whether it's low traffic across the north-south lane or not. But as a local resident, I would have thought there would have been some sort of consultation, and if there hasn't, there ought to be, about the degree to which those traffic lights are set at the moment. They are quite long in terms of allowing east-west traffic, and local traffic is being held up. So that's my first question. My second question relates to a challenge laid down to me by Mr. Gowans last council meeting, when I raised the matter of the pedestrian crossing here at Lexton Road. And Mr. Gowans said, complimented and said, look, you need to write letters to the appropriate authorities. Well, I haven't had too much time, but I've spoken to people who I think are appropriate authorities, and the message they've given me is that a letter from the council promoting and supporting that pedestrian crossing would go a long way towards achieving that result. So they're my two questions. Thank you.
You wish to respond, Mr. Gowans, or Mr. CEO? Thank you, Jim. You've been nominated.
Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to provide what I do know about traffic lights. Essentially, the traffic lights on the Western Highway are the responsibility of the Department of Transport and Planning. So essentially, they make the call on the timing of the lights, and generally that has regard to traffic flow and the broader needs of transport and traffic management. So that's essentially, it is a DOTP. I understand that, through the WAC committee, the Western Highway Alliance of Councils, of which Pyrenees is one council, there is an opportunity to advocate for or to provide input into activities on the Western Highway, and the matter of traffic lights has come up through that group from time to time, where the department has advised that there are adjustments made to the timing from time to time, and some feedback is sought through WAC to the Department of Transport and Planning. And oftentimes the reason for making those adjustments might be to do with events and activities. So during Easter, for example, I'm aware that there were some adjustments made to enable through flow for east-west traffic to flow more freely during those peak periods. So the department certainly do collect traffic data and base those decisions on evidence from that traffic data. And we have some knowledge of that and have been made aware of it when those changes have occurred. But essentially it is the department's role, and whether the department choose to undertake consultation with the broader community, that is a department matter. I'm certainly happy to take on board your concerns that the community have around that, and we can take that up with the department further. But at the end of the day, we have limited capacity to influence that decision. So I thank you for raising the question, Mr. Kurzanovs. Just in respect of the rail crossing, it's certainly a matter that council's happy to take up on your behalf to advocate. Really appreciate the fact that you've raised the issue with council. It certainly is a matter for the rail authority and the state, because essentially it will depend on their funding for that to occur. And it does bring me back to a previous advocacy led by the previous mayor, Councillor Eason in Avoca, when there was a need for a pedestrian crossing on the rail crossing on the Homebush Road in Avoca, which Councillor Eason strongly advocated for and wrote a letter to the Premier at the time. I think it was the Premier, no, it's the current Premier, who was the minister responsible for transport at the time, and that has resulted in action by the state government to commit funds to secure a pedestrian crossing, which has now been built, and that was initiated by Councillor Eason at the time. So there was certainly some advocacy done there. The difference in that instance was that That was the Murray Basin Rail project, and it was at the time still a work in progress. So there is certainly some support for the suggestion that if council was to get behind things, then the minister will consider it. There's no guarantee, and money is a little tighter now, but very happy to take that suggestion up.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. We'll move on to item 9.1, the councillor activity reports. Move Councillor Clark, second Councillor Eason. No discussion. I'll put the motion. Those in favour, carried. Item 10, the Assembly of Councillors on June 2024. Move Councillor Ferrari, seconded Councillor Clark. All in favour, that is carried. Moving on to item 11, items for decision. The economic development update. Thank you, Mr. Nolan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and happy to speak to this item, which is a response to the economic development and tourism as prepared by Mr. Ray Davies. And there's quite a lot of information in this report. So I don't propose to actually go through it in any detail, but it just refers to some items of significance. Firstly, there's an update on various projects. So the Southern Wimmera Northeast Pyrenees Water Supply Project is a major piece of work that Council's been advocating for, which I've spoken at this meeting in numerous occasions. The positive aspect of this that's worth mentioning here is that we now have a draft business case, which does estimate the construction of a project to be in the order of $160 million. And the business case does provide a benefit, a positive benefit cost ratio. So that is really positive news, and it's a positive outcome to get to at that point. There's still a little bit of work to finish off that project, but it does require council to look now to commence an advocacy process to try and secure commitment from both state and Commonwealth government to the delivery of that project in the long term on the back of a positive business case being established. I'm sure Mr. Kirsnovs will note that the Beaufort Linear Master Plan project has an update in this report, which is reinforces some of the comments I made last week. The other significant project that I'll reference relates to the digital connectivity plan. So councils will be aware that we have been engaging with the community in recent months over the community's experience around digital connectivity. I'm happy to say that that engagement now has received about 95 responses from members of the public. It has closed now on the 9th of July. We're in the process of collating that information, but it provides a really good evidence basis now for us to continue to advocate, not just to government, but also to providers of telecommunication infrastructure such as Telstra. And councillors have received a briefing from Telstra this afternoon, and we got confirmation that information from that community engagement process would be really valuable for them in building a case. And so it is intended that forms the basis of our digital connectivity plan, which will now will be finalised now on the back of that information and bring that back to council. There's an update there on activities around fire recovery as well. And I won't sort of go through that in any detail, but it does identify a significant amount of work that's undertaken to support those impacted residents from the point of view of trying to get them back on their feet in terms of their own properties. And Mr. Mayor, just from a tourism perspective, of course, the bushfires had a significant impact on tourism, and particularly those tourism operators that depend on nature-based tourism and visitation for nature-based experiences. And so as part of what's presented to council, there is a winter campaign to assist in promoting further visitation to the region to support our tourism sector. And the campaign relates to Road to Red. So this is specifically targeting our wine sector. And the details of that campaign are outlined in this report. So, Mr. Mayor, on the back of those few things that I've just highlighted there and all the detail provided to councillors, the recommendation is in three parts. That council continues to work with GWM Water and neighbouring councils to advocate to the state and federal government for commitment towards the Southern Wimmera North East Pyrenees Pipeline project, highlighting the findings of the feasibility study and the business case. Secondly, that council acknowledges the input into the digital connectivity survey and incorporates these into the final connectivity plan to be used to inform council's advocacy for ongoing investment in digital communication in the region. And thirdly, that council, in conjunction with Tourism Midwest Victoria, supports the Road to Red winter campaign to attract visitation to the region.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. We have recommendation, councillors. Somebody prepared to move. Move Councillor Clark, seconded Councillor Eason. You wish to speak, Councillor Clark?
I just to follow on the CEO's comments about Road to Red, I think it's a great initiative, and in a fortnight's time there'll be the Red Series event in Ballarat, which is run every year and is very, very well attended. And our wines, of course, are the showcase of that. But just the second one, I think, again, just to reinforce, I think everyone, all the councillors, and just how important the Beaufort Caravan Park is in terms of being able to secure some funds to continue and get that development done as we wish to do. We've been unlucky, we've missed out on this one, but we do need to go again and make sure we've got the money to do that redevelopment.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Eason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just the digital connectivity, it's something that as a council, we want everyone in the Shire, if they feel they'd like help in becoming more digitally aware, please contact us. It's something that we feel is missing for our older generations around the Shire. So please, if you want help, please come to the council and ask for it.
Thank you. Any further conversations, councillors? I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Item 11.2, Asset and Development Services. Mr. Gowans, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek a resolution from Council to adopt the 2024 to 2028 on-site wastewater management plan. Council has a statutory responsibility to administer the use and installation of on-site wastewater management systems within the Shire. It must also assess the risks and identify strategies to manage these systems. Council's current domestic wastewater plan has been in effect since being adopted in July 2015. There have been significant updates in legislation and guidelines which provide the framework for effective on-site wastewater management in recent years, necessitating a review and rewrite of the plan. In 2023, the Council was successful in obtaining a grant from the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate to undertake a project to review our domestic wastewater management plan. Pyrenees Shire officers engaged with the catchment management authorities, water corporations and the EPA, inviting feedback and changing the draft prior to public consultation. The new plan has been developed using a combination of guidelines prepared by the MAV, Municipal Association of Victoria, which includes new legislation, guidelines and frameworks prepared by the EPA and DECA, and a review of neighbouring councils' plans. The scope of the plan has not changed significantly, with the focus on special water supply catchment areas and high-risk unsewered townships. The on-site wastewater management plan was presented to the public for consultation in May this year. And Council received extensive feedback from Central Highlands Water prior to public consultation that allowed us to address areas of particular concern to them from a risk perspective prior to finalising the draft plan. Also, Golden Murray Water provided feedback supporting the scope and actions of the plan. During the public consultation period, Council received formal submissions from these organisations, as well as DECA and the Women CMA, and also 2 responses via the Engagement Hub. Feedback from the Engagement Hub addressed general concerns around EHOs requiring progress inspections of septics, and the council seemed reluctant to follow up unserviced treatment plants. The other submission suggested it would be helpful to include a document noting the differences between the 2 plans. All the relevant feedback has been incorporated into the final plan. Therefore, the 2024-2028 on-site wastewater management plan has been finalised and is required to be formally adopted by council. And the officer recommendation is that council adopts the 2024-2028 on-site wastewater management plan.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. You've seen the recommendation, councillors. Move, Councillor Clark, seconded Councillor Keogh. Any comments, Councillor Clark? Councillor Keogh? No. Councillor Ferrari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief question, if I could please, Mr. Gowans. Some of the residents, the inspections will be just random for their wastewater management system. Is that correct? And so I guess what I'm saying, if they get a notice to say that they're going to get an inspection, it doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong. It can be a random selection, have a check, and just to gather data to inform further developed plans. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Ferrari, for your question. Yes, council, as a matter of course, wants to inspect on-site wastewater systems to ensure that that they are functioning correctly. It's not if an individual receives a notice from council that we're looking to inspect, absolutely, it's normally a routine inspection just to ensure the safety that to the environment and to the broader community, that the system's operating correctly, and that on-site wastewater is being properly treated, and there's not excessive runoff into creeks or the environment. So you're absolutely right that council will be in contact with people across the Shire, especially in the specific notified areas of the Shire, to do regular inspections. And so from time to time, residents will receive a notification from council that we'll be coming to inspect their system, and we undertake those inspections in order to assist the resident to ensure that that they've got a properly operating system, and we've had a very high level of compliance through past inspection. So typically it's not about enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. I'll put the recommendation. Councillors, all in favour, that is carried. Thank you. Item 11.3.1, Risk Management Insurance Program Renewal. Ms. Bramwell, if you would please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report requests Council to endorse the insurance program for the current financial year. The insurance program is annually purchased or renewed as part of its risk mitigation program, and it was successfully procured for another year, commencing the 1st of July 2024, a total increase of 18.7% for the total program. The majority of lines were fairly low increases. The largest percentage increase was for property protection, which of course was significantly impacted by the widespread flood event in October-November 2022. Total insurance costs are almost 2.5% of budgeted revenue, which is a high percentage for a financially constrained council like ours. A potential strategies to minimise future premium increases and reduce the percentage will be discussed and reported back to council in late 2024. We'll be looking at that with our insurance broker to see what we can do. Commercial in confidence information relating to individual insurance lines has been provided to council separately, or will be provided to council separately. But as in previous years, the renewal was required by the 1st of July, so there's never enough time to get council's approval prior to actually putting it in place. Indicative costs are, however, included in the budget. So it is the officer's recommendation that council notes the information provided in the report and endorses payment of $614,177.07 for the procurement of this year's insurance programme. Thank you.
We've moved Councillor Easton, second Councillor Keogh. Any comments, councillors? My comment that I would make is that 2.5% of our budget's a fair little whack for insurance, isn't it? Makes the head spin. We're in the wrong business. We should be in the insurance game. They own all the big buildings in Melbourne, other than the banks, that is. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Is carried. Customer contact June 2024. Once again, Ms Bramwell, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report provides updates on the type of contact that is made with council through a range of media and via a range of officers for June 2024. It's normally within the just for noting period, part of the council meeting. The community contacts officers through a range of means, including customer action request system, emails, telephone complaints, requests for information or access to documents, and social media. The data, I won't go through everything, but the data includes the customer contact statistics for the last 12 months, and it seems to have gone very quickly since I started doing this, and external complaints and requests for infringements, etc. Just a couple of things to point out, that 87% of total telephone calls received by the organisation are actually taken through our frontline services, our customer service team. So that's quite an enormous thing. And they do try to resolve, the aim is to resolve 70% of those calls at the first point of call. So that's actually quite an achievement of that amount of call. That's almost 1,800 calls a month. The others I'll leave as read. The report also gives a brief cybersecurity assurance, giving details to councillors on the amount of spam or malware emails that we get through, the messages that are rejected as spam, and any emails that come in that are trying to impersonate someone. And I think since we started reporting this data to councillors, this is the first month that we've had 0 emails trying to impersonate somebody, which is quite good. The report also gives information on the Smiley Touch devices at the library, which shows that the libraries do get consistently positive feedback. And in actual fact, in the second half of June, they had 100% positive feedback, which was really good, so well done them. Most of the report deals with customer action requests and how they are being managed, including telephone requests. But as I said, I won't go into that in any great detail. If anyone wants any information on that, quite welcome to contact me. So the officer's recommendation is that council notes this report and acknowledges the need to continue to invest in measures to combat the increasing cybersecurity risk to council highlighted in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Bramwell. Move Councillor Keogh, second Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Keogh.
Sorry, just to point out one, it is interesting, and today we're talking about that cyber security. It's an incredibly important area, but thank you for all that information.
Thank you. No further comments, councillors. Councillor Clark.
Ms Bramwell, just to note on page 27 where you've just slightly differentiated the way you've done the customer action requests, that's very much appreciated, because it kind of shows that of the requests we get, about half are actionable fairly immediately, and the other half actually go through a bit of process and take a little bit more work from council. So that's very useful information. Thank you.
No further comments. I'll put the motion. Those in favour is carried. Thank you. Item 11.4.1, Mr Nolan, the September 2024 council meeting.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek council's endorsement for a change of the date for the scheduled September 24 council meeting and briefings and community cuppa. In December 23, council adopted a meeting schedule for council meetings and briefings and community cuppas for 2024. However, amendments to the Local Government Electoral Regulations 2020 have now resulted in key changes to the dates pertaining to the 2024 council election period. So the council election period will now commence on the 17th September 2024, 7 days earlier than formerly was known. As a consequence of that, it is deemed necessary for council to consider changing the dates for the September council meeting. So there is a proposal there set out in a table that the September council meeting be moved from the 17th September to the 10th of September, given the provisions of the council election period policy. And also, as a consequence of that, to move the community cuppa that was to be held at Natty Alec from the 10th to the 3rd of September, and the briefing from the 10th to the 3rd of September as well. So the recommendation, Mr Mayor, is that council amend the September meeting dates as follows: Tuesday, 3rd of September, council briefing in Avoca; Tuesday, 3rd of September, community cuppa in Natty Alec; Tuesday, 10th of September, council briefing in Beaufort; Tuesday, 10th of September, council meeting in Beaufort; and that council gives public notice in accordance with the council policy governance rules of the amended meeting dates.
Thank you, Mr CEO. You've heard the recommendation. Move councillor Keogh, second councillor Beeson. Any comments, councillors? The only comment I'd make is, where did those 4 years go? They soon go by. All those in favour? Carried. Item 11.5.1. Notice of motion from councillor Eason, read a prayer at council meetings. Councillor Eason has given notice of his intention to move the following motion at the meeting. I'll leave it to you, councillor Eason. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. The motion that I'm proposing, excuse me,
Not to speak to it.
that council examine the loss
Yeah,
of the
right.
prayer at council meeting and find a suitable replacement for future meetings. And I'll
Thank
wait
you.
for a second.
You've moved that. Thank you. Second, councillor Clark. Thank you. You may now speak to your motion, Mr. Eason.
Thank you.
Councillor Eason.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Mayor. I believe our purpose here in council is to be inclusive and not create exclusion of anyone in our shire while performing our duties. So I offer this motion for the shire to investigate something we've lost and I believe was to our detriment. In her words in the February meeting, Councillor Keogh made the comment that her prayer was not to offend anyone, but to be for her council work. We should widen the scope to encompass all people of faith and allow those without faith to feel included also. If needed, changing the wording to be inclusive of all to feel welcome here at Pyrenees Shire.
Thank you. Second, to wish to speak, councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. And I think it is appropriate that we do take this and take a little bit of process around this in the sense of things. We made a decision based on our advice last time, but we're not alone in the sense that there are other levels of government who still do a prayer. And probably the two things I've noticed from reading that is, firstly, it's not so much about the prayer as the way in which you lead into prayer. Most of those other parts of Parliament use the word pray or reflect, so they give people choices about those kind of things. But I think, as Councillor Eason said, the prayer is a unique thing, but it's common across all religions. And what religion gives us very much is the values and the morals that were brought up with in our houses, in our homes, and our families. And I think that's what we would like. I certainly think is something we should see reflected as to how you would like us to behave as your councillors of the Shire in terms of making these decisions on behalf of the community. So I think there's significant opportunity there for us to do that for the review. Thank you.
Any further comments, councillors? Councillor? Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Thanks.
or
I couldn't
studying
see
out,
that. Thank
pushing
you.
your speaker on.
I just want to say I fully support this recommendation by Councillor Easton. I think, well, as you know, I did vote against the prayer being removed in the first place. But I thank everyone coming together to look at it, because we all are really in principle of in support of reinstating. We're really affirming that we're working for something greater than ourselves. We're working for all of you out there. We're working for our whole communities. It's not about our personal benefit. It's about the benefit of all. So I believe being held accountable to a higher authority for whoever's beliefs they are, they will have someone that they hold to a higher authority, but even more so being beholden to our community and our constituents for the betterment of that whole entire community. So just thank you greatly for bringing this back up, and I can hope that this is something we're able to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. No further comments, Councillor. I endorse the remarks that have been made. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Moving right along, we'll start with the councillor reports. General business. Councillor Beeson, we might start your direction tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Had a meeting with the Avoca Chinese Garden over some issues at the Chinese Garden. A group of people who do a wonderful job maintaining, and with support of council, maintaining that structure in Avoca that draws people from all over the countryside. We don't have a counter to actually give figures, but people often are found to be moving around town asking where is the Chinese Garden. So we know people come for that purpose. Had a cuppa at Avoca where it was well represented by the locals asking questions and finding out issues, which is what the cuppas are for. And then attended the Ordinary Risk Committee, which shows the Shire running a reasonably tight ship with what we do and how we do it, and constantly being questioned over should we or how can we do things better. It's one of the more important committee meetings that I feel that I attend. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh.
Thank you. Got that button on. It has been relatively quiet again the last month. There is some gravel road maintenance that's occurring where possible across the Mount Emu ward. Also recently the TAC has been running an education program, so with a speed sign monitor at the Linton entrance of Snake Valley. So that's been a great way just to make sure people are ensuring that they're driving at a safe speed when they're entering into that township area. Also recently, you will know you've got your recycling and waste calendars have come out in the mail. Just again, please really check out that information that's on there. It's tried to be very clear and concise, but the little steps that we can take in managing our waste can make a big difference in assisting us on the other end. So if washing containers, all that sort of stuff, means a lot more can be recycled and we can be a lot more sustainable. Also in relation to bins, I've still noticed particularly in regional areas, sometimes with the wind and particularly with the wilder weather we're having, they can sometimes be disturbed or knocked over. The council has some great little rubber clasps which sort of go on the side, and they are very effective. I use them on my own bins, and I know many neighbours that do that. They can be purchased at a minimal cost at the council offices here and at the information centres, or I think and at the information centres. So please, they're very useful if you want to grab some of those for your bins. And yeah, just to finish up, I guess in this crazy flu season, please, check on those that are vulnerable, anyone that you know in your community that may need a bit of extra support or chicken soup, but please keep warm and keep well. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Councillor Ferrari.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Usual council briefing, cuppa and chat, which I really enjoy, and I think, as I've said a number of times, we do tend, because we've shifted into the afternoon, we get better attendances, which is really good, and that's what it's all about, because we do hear more stuff and have that ability to have more interaction. So that was really good. Had some constituent meetings and phone calls. I'd like to remind the community that council responsive grants of up to $750 are open, and I think they're open all year round. So check the council website for more information and about what you need to qualify for that and what you can use those grants for. I also sit on the Audit and Risk Committee with Councillor Eason, and it's just another layer of governance and risk management to assist us in that space and to validate that our risk mitigation strategies are working correctly. That's about it for me, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Connor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Last week I took the chance to have a drive up Mount Cole now that the forest's open, and it's a pretty sobering experience just to remind you the amount of damage it's done, but most particularly there's almost no ground cover on most of the parts of the forest, which is just an indication again of how hot that fire absolutely was when we got it in February in that sense of things. I attended this drop-in session for Lexington Flood Study, which again was well attended, just people dropping in over a couple of hours to talk to the consultants, and the next session for that is the 31st of July, so certainly encouraging Lexington people listening tonight to come along at that night. I attended the Rural Regional Forum that MAV runs in my role as president, and interesting to listen to the speakers and talking about things like the housing target that we talked about here at our last meeting of council in terms of some of the activity that's happening in that spot. The chat with Avoca, again, very good in that sense. And of course, last week we were at Warborough for chat there, and that was actually really valuable, I think, for councillors to hear about a couple of projects in the town, and also just about the assets committee that runs the recreation facility and how we might look to that in the future. The actual recreation facility, the hub, actually had a meeting about a fortnight earlier, which I attended, and thank you, Douglas, to a couple of your council officers who attended that. That was really good in that sense, and quite extensive speaking about the master plan, which is really important, because there's certainly a couple of community groups at the moment that are very excited to do some things like playground and stuff there, but we need a master plan to get it in the right place in that sense. So that's good. Just finally for me, I was also attended with my president's hat on the National General Assembly in Canberra last week, and took that opportunity to obviously seek further funding more broadly for councils, but of course that affects Pyrenees. We will get an increase this year in our roads recovery money, which is really valuable in that sense of things, and in some of our other black spot type funding. And again, made the point about some of the challenges that we're having with the DRFA, with the disaster recovery arrangements in terms of getting funding through for those floods that we're now in 2022, and the pressure that's put on us budget-wise with the fire, of course, in February. Thanks, Mr Mayor. That's for me.
Early last month, I attended the GBAC meeting along with the CEO in Ballarat. I had the privilege of being at the opening of the Pyrenees Art Show, which once again was brilliant. I thought it's a highlight of our region, and a lot of local artists taking place, and I was pleased to see a tribute to the late Rod Reed right near the doorway. It was a great memento for Rod and what he's done for the Beaufort region over the years, especially in that art field. He was a very talented man. I had a Timber Towns general meeting, and like the other councillors, attended Avoca for the cuppa around Warborough. And last week, along with the CEO, David mentioned the National General Assembly, but it was quite an eventful 2 days for me. More than 1,200 local government leaders from across Australia gathered in Canberra, so you can imagine there was a lot of people in that main assembly hall for the discussions, and guest speakers I felt were extremely well picked out. Credit to the organisers. Just spelled out, there was one speaker, a German chappie who mentioned the era from the baby boomers through to the current date in 10-year brackets, and by golly, life has changed. There's no doubt about it. As we remember it, the older ones of us, to where it is today, technology has really gone bonkers. We had also some financial sustainability research speakers, which highlighted that sustainable federal funding to, I'm reading off notes here, councils would deliver a $7 billion increase to Australians' GDP in the year 2024. The National State of the Assets report was also launched, outlining the condition of 1/3 of Australia's public infrastructure, which is part of a $643 billion worth of assets that council manage. This new research reinforces the urgent need for federal financial assistance grants to local government to be restored to at least 1% of Commonwealth taxation revenue. At the moment, it's at 0.5%. It started out at 1%, but slowly but surely has dwindled away. As I've said, across the 2 days, there were numerous presenters on the theme of building community trust and how local government is integral to holding and building this trust. We are the form of government that is closest to our people. And when you come to the Pyrenees Shire, you are known by all your constituents personally, so you've got to be pretty straight up and down with our voting public. We had new sessions on housing, emergency management, roads and transport and energy, the usual stuff that we love to talk about. There were 160 motions put before the Assembly, and they were passed through. These motions included solutions to address the financial sustainability of councils and to support councils to deliver cost of living relief, facilitate more affordable housing, maintain safe and productive local roads, cycleways and footpaths, better prepare for and recover for natural disasters, and close the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. In the lead up to the next federal election, ALGA will work with our state and territory member associations and Australia's 537 local governments. There's a few of us out there, isn't there? And they'll advocate for critical financial assistance grants to be restored to at least 1%. Also, whilst there, Jim and I had the opportunity to meet with the Senior Advisor to Minister Watt, who is the Minister for Emergency Management, just to impress upon her the importance of assistance to the smaller councils, especially like ours, who were affected with the floods in 2022 and then the bushfire out in Bayandine this year. We cannot afford to carry the debt while these senior government parties allow us to do it. We need the assistance money to come through and help us do our day-to-day functions. We also had the opportunity to meet with Dr. Anne Webster in the National Party's room and had a couple of senior members that spoke to us from the National Party, and especially their leader, David Littleproud, who really impressed me as a straight up and down sort of a codger. He's a Queenslander, so he probably talks our language a bit. He's very keen to come down and visit the area to see the ramifications of the bushfire that was mentioned before. So that pretty well covers my report. Thank you very much for that, councillors. We'll move now for a recommendation to close the meeting to the members of the public while we discuss some confidential matters. We'll return to the meeting after that. I need a recommendation that the meeting be closed to members of the public in accordance with section. Moved, Councillor Clark, seconded, Councillor Eason. Put the motion, those in favour, is carried.
Thank you. Thank you, George.
Thanks, George.